My name is Nix Calderon, and Brooklyn taught me how to breathe through concrete. I was 29 when this story began, old enough to know the price of ambition, young enough to still believe talent could protect me. I lived in a narrow loft in Williamsburg, the kind with exposed brick and a leaky radiator that hissed like it was always annoyed. The windows faced an alley painted with layers of old graffiti, each tag a ghost of someone who wanted to be remembered. I understood that feeling. Every morning, I woke up with paint under my nails and ideas racing faster than my coffee could keep up with. Art wasn't a hobby for me. It was how I translated the chaos in my head into something quiet and sharp and undeniable. That was before Julian Cross decided my work looked better without my name on it. Julian and I met 3 years earlier at a gallery fundraiser in Dumbo. I was standing alone near a concrete pillar, pretending not to notice the collectors circling the room like sharks in linen suits. Julian approached me with a glass of cheap champagne and an expensive smile. "You're not networking," he said. "I'm observing," I replied. He laughed like I'd passed a test. Julian was everything I wasn't: polished, confident, always 2 steps ahead in conversation. He knew people. He knew which words to use around money. He told me he believed in my work before anyone else ever said it out loud. When he asked me to become his partner, my art, his connections, I thought I'd finally found balance. We signed contracts, clean ones, or so I thought. By the time contemporary art season rolled around, Brooklyn was buzzing. Posters lined the streets. Instagram feeds flooded with previews and invitations. And at the center of it all was the Halcyon Gallery, Julian's crown jewel, or so I believed. The night I found out the truth didn't arrive with drama. It came quietly, like betrayal always does. I was in my studio late, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the smell of turpentine. My phone buzzed with a message from an old art school friend. "Congrats on the Halcyon feature. Your work is everywhere tonight." My chest warmed. Then she sent a link. I clicked it and froze. There it was, my largest piece. The one I'd spent 6 months on, the one I bled into, the one that started as charcoal sketches taped to my bedroom wall. Except the artist credit didn't say Nix Calderon. It said J. Cross Collection, Ghost Artist Series. I stared at the screen like it might change if I looked hard enough. Ghost Artist. My hands went cold. I refreshed the page, scrolled, clicked another piece. Another one of mine. Different title, same absence. My name was nowhere. I called Julian immediately. He didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. My stomach twisted as something sharp and sick crawled up my spine. I opened the shared folder we used for contracts, something I hadn't touched in months because I trusted him. That was my first mistake. The document was there, buried, revised. A ghost artist agreement. My signature sat at the bottom, real, undeniable, but the clauses weren't what I remembered. Exclusive rights, anonymous attribution, full ownership transferred after sale. My breath came out in short, broken pulls. I didn't remember agreeing to this. I remembered Julian saying, "This is temporary, just until your name gains traction." Temporary. I sank onto the concrete floor, my back against the wall, paint streaks drying on my arms like proof I existed. How long had this been happening? How many rooms had my art been in without me? The worst part wasn't the money. It wasn't even the theft. It was the realization that someone I trusted had rewritten my identity while smiling at me across polished tables. I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb, listening to the radiator hiss like it was laughing. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message. From Julian. "Big night coming up. Halcyon opening next Friday. You should come. It'll be good for morale." Morale. I stared at the words until they blurred. He wanted me there, at the gallery, surrounded by my work, with someone else's name on it. I locked my phone and stood up slowly. Something in me shifted. Not loud, not explosive, but cold and deliberate. If Julian wanted a ghost, I'd show him exactly what I could haunt. And I already knew when. The biggest opening night of the season, I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my mattress, staring at the ceiling, watching headlights slide across the cracks like restless thoughts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my paintings hanging on white walls with someone else's name beneath them. Ghost artist. The phrase felt surgical, clean, designed to erase. By morning, my shock had hardened into something colder. Focus. I brewed coffee strong enough to bite and opened my laptop. If Julian thought I was just an artist who painted and trusted blindly, he had misunderstood me completely. I had documented everything. Every sketch, every draft, every revision. I pulled out old hard drives, flipping through folders labeled by dates and moods. Jan storm, April silence, Nick's final vote. Each one was a breadcrumb trail of my mind. There were videos too, hours of time-lapse recordings I used to track my own progress. Paint spreading, hands shaking, me stepping back, frowning, fixing, destroying, rebuilding. Proof, real proof. By noon, my phone rang. Julian. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. Nix, he said smoothly. You okay? You didn't respond last night. I pictured him in his glass office, sunlight catching on steel and confidence. I saw the Halcyon site, I said. A pause, not long, but telling. Ah, he replied. Yes, about that. I was planning to explain. Explain, I smiled, though he couldn't see it. You sold my work, I said quietly. You're overreacting, he said quickly. This is strategic. Anonymous artists generate intrigue. It's positioning. My name isn't positioning, I said. It's ownership. Another pause, this one heavier. Nix. He sighed, slipping into the tone he used when he wanted control. The market responds to brands. Right now, J. Cross opens doors. Later, we bring you forward. Later. Always later? And the contract? I asked. You signed it. I signed something different. Memory is tricky, he said lightly. You trusted me then. Trust me now. There it was. The line he always used. I felt my fingers curl around the edge of my desk. I'll be at the opening, I said. His relief was immediate. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. Wear something striking. Collectors love a muse. Muse. Not artist. I ended the call before he could say anything else. That afternoon, I went somewhere I hadn't been in years. My old art school studio in Bushwick. The building smelled like dust and turpentine and desperation. The walls were still scarred with old staples and paint splatters. I rented the space from a friend who never asked questions. I set up my camera, hit record, and started painting. I talked as I worked, about color choices, about muscle memory, about why certain lines terrified me. I explained decisions Julian never understood because he'd never made anything himself. This piece, I said into the lens, exists because I couldn't sleep the night my father left. This one started as anger and ended as restraint. I wasn't just creating art. I was creating context. By evening, I met Lena Morales, a freelance art journalist I'd once shared ramen with after a failed group show. She listened without interrupting as I laid everything out. The contracts, the missing credit, the ghost agreement. This is big, she said finally. But you get one shot. If you go public too early, he buries you. I don't want early, I said. I want undeniable. She nodded slowly. Then you wait. The week before the opening crawled. Julian sent cheerful updates, seating charts, VIP lists, red dot previews. Each message felt like a dare. I kept working, organizing files, time-stamping drafts, notarizing originals. I even found an email from Julian, dated 2 years back, praising my authorship in writing. Gold. The night before the opening, I stood in front of my mirror, wearing a black jacket splattered faintly with dried paint. I looked calm. That scared me more than rage ever had, because calm meant I was ready. Halcyon Gallery glowed the next night like a shrine to money. Glass walls, white floors, Soft music designed to sound expensive. My art was everywhere. People leaned close to canvases I'd cried over. They nodded thoughtfully. They whispered Julian's name with admiration. Julian spotted me the moment I walked in. "There she is," he said, kissing my cheek. "You look incredible." "Thank you," I replied. "So does my work." He laughed, not hearing the edge. Then the gallery director clinked a glass. "Before we begin," she announced, "Julian Cross would like to say a few words about the Ghost Artist series." Julian stepped forward, confident, radiant. "This collection," he began, "represents anonymity, the surrender of ego." I felt my phone vibrate in my hand. A message from Lena. "Everything ready?" I looked up at the crowd. "At my work." "At Julian." "Yes," I typed back, because in my bag, resting against my hip, was a flash drive labeled with my name. And tonight, ghosts were going to speak. Julian's voice flowed through the room like silk. "The surrender of ego," he said, smiling at the crowd. "The purity of art when freed from authorship." I watched heads nod. I watched wine glasses tilt. I watched my work absorb praise meant for someone else. My phone buzzed again. "Lena." 5 minutes. I slid closer to the wall, blending in. Years of being unseen had trained me well. Julian gestured toward my largest canvas. "This piece," he said, "was created by an artist who chose anonymity over fame." I felt something tight unwind in my chest. "No, this piece chose me." The gallery director leaned toward Julian. "We should start the projection soon," she whispered. Julian nodded. Perfect timing. A staff member dimmed the lights. The projector hummed to life, casting soft visuals, abstract textures, curated mood shots, Julian's brand wrapped neatly around my work. Then Julian turned. "And now," he announced, "a short video to give insight into the philosophy behind the Ghost Artist series." He smiled, confident, generous. I stepped forward. "Actually," I said, loud enough to cut through the room. Silence rippled outward. Julian's smile twitched. "Nix, I think the room deserves the full process," I continued, holding up my flash drive. "Not just the philosophy." The gallery director hesitated. "Is this approved?" Julian recovered quickly. "She's the muse," he said lightly. "She's emotional. It's been a long project." "Muse." I met his eyes. "Play it," I said. "A beat." Then Lena's voice cut in from the back. "As press, I'd like to see it." Eyes turned, phones lifted. The director nodded. "All right, let's see." The screen went black. Then my studio appeared. My hands, my voice. "This canvas began on February 12th, I said on screen. "You can see the underlayer here. Raw sienna mixed with ash." Murmurs spread. The video jumped through timestamps. Weeks, months, paint scraped away, colors rebuilt, me pacing, me crying, me laughing at mistakes. Julian stiffened. The room leaned forward. "That mark," my recorded voice continued, "is where I almost quit." A woman near the front whispered, "That's her." Another clip rolled. An email appeared on screen. From Julian Cross. Subject: Your work. Nix. "This piece is unmistakably yours. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." Gasps. Julian stepped toward the projector. "This is inappropriate." "And this," my voice said calmly from the speakers, "is the contract version history." The screen split. 2 documents side by side. One original, one revised. Highlighted clauses glowed red. Dates, metadata, digital fingerprints. A collector raised his hand. "Are you saying this agreement was altered after she signed?" "Yes," Lena said clearly, "and I have confirmation." Julian laughed too loudly. "This is a misunderstanding." "Then explain this," I said, walking to the front. I held up a canvas, unfinished, raw, the same piece hanging behind him, finished. "I brought the original," I said. "Paint layers match. Carbon dating confirms timeline." Silence. I wasn't shaking. That surprised me. Julian's voice dropped. "You're embarrassing yourself." I tilted my head. "You taught me how rooms work, Julian, and this room is listening. A man in a tailored suit stepped forward. I purchased 3 pieces from this series, under the belief they were ethically represented. Another voice followed. So did I. The gallery director swallowed. Julian, we need to pause sales. Julian's face drained of color. This is a setup, he snapped. She's unstable. Lena raised her phone. Careful, you're on record. The room buzzed, low, electric. Julian leaned close to me. You think this ends well for you? I met his stare. It already has. Security approached. Not me. Him. The director whispered urgently. Julian, please step aside. As he was guided away, the screen froze on my name. Nix Calderon, artist. Applause started slowly, uncertain. Then it grew. I stood there, breathing, as years of being invisible dissolved. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. You don't know what you just started. I looked at the message, then at the room, and realized this wasn't the end. It was the moment everything else would fight back. The applause didn't feel loud. It felt distant, like it was happening underwater, somewhere far away from my body. People surrounded me. Voices overlapped. Questions flew in fragments. Are you okay? Did you plan this? How long has this been happening? I answered none of them, because across the room, Julian was still there, half-shadowed near the exit, speaking urgently into his phone, his jaw tight, his posture unfamiliar. Smaller. Cornered. For the first time since I met him, he didn't look like the smartest person in the room. That should have felt good. Instead, my hands started to shake. Lena found me near the back wall and pressed a glass of water into my palm. Breathe, she said quietly. This part is always harder than the reveal. What part? I asked. The part where they don't disappear. Her words landed heavier than the applause ever had. The gallery director approached, her expression careful, corporate. Nix, we're suspending all sales related to the Ghost Artist series. Our legal team will be in touch. I nodded. I expected that. She hesitated. You should know. Julian claims you're retaliating because the partnership was ending. I let out a small laugh. It surprised both of us. He ended it, I said. He just forgot to tell me. Outside, Brooklyn had cooled. The night air smelled like rain and metal. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, heels in my hand, feet aching against concrete. That's when my phone exploded. Notifications stacked on notifications, clips from the gallery, photos of my name on the screen, tweets, threads, think pieces already forming. Someone had uploaded the moment Julian was escorted away. The caption read, "Ghost artist reveals herself." I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt exposed, because when you tell the truth publicly, you lose control of how it spreads. A black SUV idled at the curb. Julian stepped out. "Get in," he said sharply. No. He moved closer, voice low. "You humiliated me. You erased me," I said. He laughed once, brittle. "You think collectors care about you now? They care about controversy. And it fades." "Does it?" I asked. "You signed a contract," he snapped. "I can still ruin you." I looked at him. Not the version I'd trusted, but the one beneath it. Desperate. Calculating. "You already tried," I said. "And you failed." He leaned in. "This isn't over." "I know," I replied. "That's why I documented everything." His eyes flicked, just for a second. I turned away. That night, I didn't go home. I went back to the Bushwick studio and slept on the floor between wet canvases. The smell of paint grounded me, reminded me I was still real. By morning, the fallout had evolved. An email waited in my inbox from Halcyon Gallery Legal. "We request an immediate meeting regarding ownership and representation." Another followed from Independent Arts Council. "We are reviewing documentation related to unethical representation practices." Then another from an unknown collector. "I'd like to speak to you directly." No intermediaries. I stared at the screen, pulse quickening. This was the dangerous part. Not exposure. Opportunity, Lena called an hour later. Julian's lawyer reached out. He wants mediation. No, I said. Silence. Nix, she said carefully. This could get ugly. I know. What's your next move? I looked around the studio, at the cameras, the files, the proof that had saved me. I don't want revenge anymore, I said slowly. I want control. That afternoon, I recorded another video. Not angry, not accusatory. Clear. I am Nix Calderon, I said into the lens, and I am reclaiming my work, not to punish, but to protect. I sent it to Lena, to the gallery, to the council. Then I waited. That evening, my phone rang again. Unknown number, I answered. You think you've won? Julian's voice said softly. I think I've survived, I replied. You've made enemies. I closed my eyes. I've made myself visible. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, because I knew what came next wouldn't be public. It would be quiet and far more dangerous.